What if a tank the world called inferior suddenly turned the tables on a battlefield monster? Beneath the smoke of war, one gunner did the unthinkable, a move so bold it seemed impossible. With a single shot, he transformed a Sherman into a tiger hunter. But who was he? And what was the secret behind that shot? Greetings to all aviators and history enthusiasts from WWII Pilot. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? May you stay safe and inspired wherever you are. Today, we uncover a forgotten moment from WWII, when a lone gunner turned the tide against the feared Tiger tank. This is not merely a tale of metal and fire, but of ingenuity born in desperation. Stay with us as we reveal how one man's impossible idea rewrote the balance between two of history's most legendary machines. World War II, the winter of 1944. Somewhere along the Eastern Front, a frozen landscape lay shattered by artillery fire and tank battles. Snow blanketed the ground, covering tracks and craters, while bare trees stood like silent witnesses to a never-ending conflict. Among the American Allied forces was the 8th Tank Regiment of the XXX Division, a fictional name, operating several Sherman tanks deployed to support an offensive push against German positions. Within one of those tanks served a young gunner named John, or Jack, Miller, experienced, yet far from the most distinguished in his unit. Jack grew up in a small town, fascinated by machinery and rifles, but when war came calling, he enlisted as a tank crewman. His assigned vehicle was an M4A3 Sherman medium tank, armed with a 75mm or 76mm gun, depending on the version. The Sherman was not a battlefield monster. Its armor was thin compared to the Tiger, and its firepower slower than the heavy German guns. Yet within the Allied ranks, the Sherman was indispensable, fast, reliable, easy to produce, and versatile in great numbers. On the opposing side stood the dreaded Tiger I and Tiger II, heavy German tanks with thick armor and devastating 88mm guns. Their very name, Tiger, inspired terror among Allied tank crews. The battlefield stretched across forest edges, rolling terrain, trenches, snowdrifts, and the ruins of a small town. On that dark, fog-laden night, low clouds crept over the fields while waves of fire and steel shattered the front lines. Engines roared, shells exploded, and the frozen ground trembled. The command center issued a critical order. Shermans were to move to the front, into the very zone where German Tigers were last detected. Inside his tank, Jack focused on the gun's crosshairs, adjusting elevation and relaying messages through the radio. The collective awareness was grim. Facing a Tiger was like stepping into hell. Many crews before them had been obliterated. Yet Jack and his team pressed on, advancing toward the line of confrontation. Upon entering the combat zone, the Sherman crew intercepted radio chatter confirming enemy movement. 2 Tigers approaching from the northeast, supported by artillery. Orders were clear. Hold the line at all costs. Do not let them break through. But the terrain was disastrous. Snow-covered ridges, craters, and ruins everywhere. Perfect for defense, deadly for any tank assault. Communication lines broke down. Visibility dropped to near zero, and long-range optics were useless in the heavy fog. Soon, artillery rounds began raining down. Several Sherman units were damaged or immobilized by mines. The psychological pressure grew heavier by the minute. Then, a new radio command crackled through. "Do not let the Tigers advance. Priority target." Jack knew what that meant. Facing a Tiger head-on was almost suicidal. "How are we supposed to stop a monster like that with our 75mm pop gun?" he muttered under his breath. In an emergency briefing, Lieutenant Carter, their commanding officer, urged his men, "We can't win by brute force. Use the terrain. Outthink them, outflank them." Jack loaded premium rounds, AP and APCR shells, and made small adjustments to the gun's elevation. Every second counted. Suddenly, optical sensors picked up a massive silhouette emerging from the tree line. Tall, angular, unmistakably a Tiger. The Shermans were caught in open terrain. Frozen soil cracked under their treads as the Tiger advanced. Panic spread through the crews as another Sherman exploded nearby, hit from nearly a kilometer away. Jack's heart pounded. The crosshair trembled slightly. If we can't pierce it from the front, we'll have to trick it. A wild idea began forming in his head. Something unconventional, almost insane. But could it actually work? Jack and Lieutenant Carter maneuvered their tank toward a narrow slope beside the ruins, a risky move through snow and rubble meant to break the Tiger's line of sight. The goal? Create a blind spot and strike from an unexpected angle. The tank groaned under stress. The treads slipped on ice, and once the crew had to stop to clear packed snow from the tracks. Overhead, a German recon plane briefly circled, prompting a barrage of light artillery that forced the Shermans to scatter. Inside the cramped steel chamber, the men whispered quick calculations, angles, distances, reload times. They had one chance. Moving closer meant almost certain detection, but staying still meant waiting to die. Through the periscope, Jack spotted a potential trick shot. A fallen tree, a snow mound, and a ruined wall forming a triangular slope. If he could ricochet a shell just right, it might deflect into the Tiger's weak side armor. But it was a long shot, the kind of stunt no one had ever tried in live combat. As the Tiger's engine roared closer, its 88mm gun swept the horizon. Every few seconds, it fired a probing round, shaking the earth. Then came the explosion of another friendly Sherman, too close this time. Dust and smoke engulfed their position. "Hold your fire," Carter barked. "Wait for my mark." The tension was suffocating. Jack's fingers tightened on the trigger. It was now or never. The Tiger rolled into partial view, just 800 meters away. Its massive gun turret began to turn. "Ready? Now!" Carter shouted. Jack fired. The shells screamed out, but not straight toward the Tiger. Instead, it struck the frozen mound, ricocheted upward, and slammed into the side of the Tiger's turret. A thunderous explosion erupted. The Tiger shuddered violently. Flames burst from its side as its internal ammo detonated. Smoke poured out of the wreck, and the mighty machine came to a halt, silenced in seconds. The Sherman crew erupted in disbelief. They'd just pulled off what everyone said was impossible. "Tiger down! Repeat, Tiger down!" Carter yelled into the radio. But victory was short-lived. Incoming fire whizzed past from a secondary Tiger or supporting guns. The Sherman shook under impact. Jack hastily adjusted aim and returned fire, forcing the enemy to retreat behind cover. The battlefield roared again, but this time the tide had shifted. One Tiger destroyed by a ricochet shot. The echo of explosions faded. Smoke and silence hung in the air. The disabled Tiger smoldered, its crew either wounded, dead, or fleeing. The Sherman repositioned behind ruins, reloading in case of counterattack. Nearby, other tanks and infantry units began regrouping. German armor units, stunned by the loss, hesitated before pulling back to secondary lines. Lieutenant Carter ordered a cautious advance to secure the area. Engineers and medics followed, marking the fallen Tiger for inspection. The wreckage confirmed a hit through the turret's weak side armor, something almost no one had achieved in real combat. Across the radio, messages of disbelief spread through the division. Sherman took down a Tiger with a trick shot? The morale of the Allied troops soared. For the first time, they felt that even the invincible Tigers could bleed. Hours later, reinforcements arrived. Mechanics patched the Sherman's damage, resupplied ammunition, and congratulated the crew. Command officially logged the incident as a minor tactical victory with major morale impact. Reports circulated across the front. A Sherman knocked down a Tiger with an impossible shot.
The feat became a legend, studied by tankers across units as proof that brains could beat brawn. Jack and his crew received commendations, though they remained humble. They knew luck had played its part: fog cover, perfect ricochet angle, and split-second timing. Still, their courage turned an ordinary tank into a symbol of ingenuity. Machines may dominate the battlefield, but the human mind remains the ultimate force. The real enemy, Jack realized, wasn't always the tiger ahead. It was the fear and doubt within. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you won't miss other epic World War II tales from WWII Pilot. Tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? For example, Jember, Indonesia, or your own city. May you stay safe, strong, and inspired by history's lessons. See you in the next episode, where we'll dive into daring air chases, fearless pilots, and unbelievable battlefield tactics that defined an era.